Okay, so welcome to the Aviva fan studio. Just hours to go to kick off now between Ireland and Australia here. I have to say it's looking great out there. Conditions good, and we're hoping for a good game. We're going to review this morning's newspapers. We're joined by Rory O'Connor, Gavin Cummiskey and Pat McCarry as well, just to talk through the papers. Rory, if we start with your piece, it's in many ways it's framed like an awful lot of the pieces about this question mark, which seems like a big one about Sean O'Brien today.
Yeah, very hard match to preview, Bernard, because we don't know who's playing for Ireland, because Sean O'Brien wasn't here yesterday for the captain's run. Jared Payne was here, but he didn't train. We have Rory Scannell, who's never played for Ireland, has only had 2 or 3 training sessions with Ireland, on standby to play in the centre, and Josh van der Fleer, who'd be far more comfortable, ready to come in for Sean O'Brien into the team. It's brought back memories, lads, of the World Cup, I think, that week between the France and Argentina game when Ireland had so many issues. There was the hangover from the previous week, which we had this week as well, because of the New Zealand furore about the referee. We've had a couple of players haven't trained during the week, Rob Kearney, CJ Stander with their head injuries. And now we have this kind of lingering doubt, and we had Andy Farrell in the Aviva Stadium yesterday telling us that everything was fine, this is all very normal, when it's not. And it's, it makes it very interesting, because, even I have the key battle there between Sean O'Brien and Michael Hooper. We've got David Pocock. We're all looking forward to that. We don't know if it's going to happen, so it's an interesting one.
We've never seen a player not show up for a captain's run and play a game of rugby, so Sean O'Brien's looks like we're just on that alone. It looks like he's not playing, and that, as we've learned to our costs, can decide a game. He's unquestionably our best player at the moment, and he 3 turnovers against the All Blacks is unheard of from any team. So Van der Fleer came on and had a cracking game, but I don't think we beat Australia, and I think you went and tipped Australia probably on the basis of that.
Even if he does play, I think there's just so much going on with the squad. It's very hard to see how without Johnny Sexton, Robbie Henshaw.
They have to be out of juice though as well, don't they? Because they're coming off an epic season. We're only starting our international season, but we do look like we've taken a bit more wear and tear from the All Blacks experiences, which we're letting go, of course.
Pat, what else catches your eye this morning? I know there's a nice story about Conor McGregor is going to come in and give us all a team talk and save the day. Yeah,
a friend of ours, all right, Conor McGregor. That's McCarry was talking to Liam in the Daily Mail, and there's a talk about, we've kind of seen in the past someone like Rory McIlroy coming in, Sonia Sullivan coming in and giving talks to the guys, and Mick Kearney was kind of saying as team manager, the thing they wanted, all the players have been on to him about, was getting Conor McGregor in to talk to them, and it's something that he couldn't deliver before he left, but he's left John Kavanagh's contact number with Paul Dean, who's going to take over, and they might get him in, maybe ahead of the Six Nations or something,
He's on a long list of people who've come in and given team talks and songs. Yeah,
well, they've had Christy Moore in over the years. They've during the World Cup, or just before the World Cup, Usain Bolt was in with them, and there was that picture that they wouldn't release, but the great picture that finally leaked out on social media of the whole lot of them doing Usain Bolt's kind of signature move. And I suppose McGregor can teach them a bit of tackle tech.
Yeah, there's a work ethic element, which I say a lot of them would respect in him. You know what I mean? There's that crossover between them. Robbie Henshaw did mention him going, I like the way he does certain things, you know what I mean? So just that alone, where he could learn a lot from them as well, I'm sure, just the different experiences. But he's like such a global phenomenon now.
If you could do a bit of media training, and it might brighten up the papers, we get a few more interesting quotes, a bit more bravado about the place, would be no harm.
Let's stay, Gav, on the Saturday papers, because there's plenty of good articles about Rory Best. Big day for him, 100 cap.
100 caps, and it's such a credit to the man, considering how he's come from. But you wouldn't have thought. I remember the first time I saw Rory Best, he was playing hooker for Belfast Harlequins against Clontarf in an AIL game, and he was Simon Best's brother, And then a couple of years later, he he cracked into the Ulster team, and it went on from there. And then he was Jerry Flannery's understudy for years, and that looked like the height of it. And then Jerry Flannery's career was kind of really injury ravaged, so Best came in, and in 2011 at that World Cup he became a world-class hooker. We realised that we've had this thing all along, and at that stage we still didn't know we had a leader of the calibre he's become. I love the way he talks to the refs. I think he's gotten really, really good at it. It's a real string to his bow. You down in South Africa, you can tell us a bit more about how he did down there. But last week and the week before, it's the subtle way he communicates with them. He doesn't get in your face. He comes at them from the side. Just little key points. I think he was fundamental in getting Aaron Smith sin-binned. Because he'd gone and goes, he went to our friend Jacko last week and goes, are you going to let this happen again? And he was like straight at him. He goes, look, they've done it 4 times now. You're going to let it happen again. And as soon as they infringed again, the yellow card came out. That was huge, and that's good. That's what a good captain does.
He's a hugely likeable figure, isn't he? He comes across really well. He, Andy Farrell was up yesterday at the press conference, and after we got through all the injury stuff, he pretty much touted him as a potential Lions captain, which is interesting because Andy Farrell was there in 2013 when Rory Best had a nightmare on the Lions tour. Really, having missed out on the initial selection, really struggled, and then he's come into this Ireland setup. He's seen what Rory Best is really like now, you know, having learned from that experience and having grown and having led this team. And Andy Farrell's going to be the Lions defence coach again. That seems to be pretty much a done deal. So, you know, he's going to be in Warren Gatlin's ear. And if Rory Best can come from being a Lions failure, for want of a better phrase, in 2013 to going on to lead them in 2017, that's a huge step forward and a huge reward for I think what everyone sees as a good guy who's followed in some big footsteps.
But it's 5 years now, hasn't he? He's been a world-class hooker.
Yeah,
6 years. And he's just, the amount of punishment he takes because he puts his face, right, he's there at the breakdown clearing balls. Like he got a serious battering from the All Blacks last week there because he was right up in their faces and clear and doing the jobs that none of us really see, you know.
Pat, there's a good story, I think it's in Jerry Thornley's piece about Rory and about an embarrassing situation where he thought he was going to come on for Jerry Flannery and he was made sit that one out.
Yeah, that was on that tour of New Zealand and they were playing down in Hamilton that time, and Best he had seen before the game that Jerry Flannery was just not 100% fit. He was panned out on the kind of physio table even in the team meeting before the game, and he was told, listen, we're going to try get an hour out of Jerry, and Jerry was kind of going, he was kind of flagging. It looked like to Rory he was flagging, and he got to shout, Best, you're up, and went down to the sideline, took the jacket off, and the game went on 80 minutes. Ireland ended up losing. They conceded a few late scores, and he never went on. And in the end, it was his brother that was getting called off, and there was a mix-up. And to him, that was the moment to him that he said, listen, am I just going to be a guy in the sidelines, or am I going to step it up a little bit? And he kind of really did. And I was mentioning to the lads, it was the moment where he took on Flannery in a bleep test over in Australia on one summer tour, and not only did he beat him, but he went an extra couple of lengths back and forth just to kind of rub it in that, you know, I've got you in fitness.
He's not that kind of lad who rubbed it in, but it was just like, yeah, look, I'm here kind of a thing.
Yeah, you can imagine him just giving that little smile or something like that.
I tell you, the mark of the man was in the press conference last week when we were talking about Robbie Henschel getting carried off, about all the stuff that was going on around the game, and he just turned around and he goes, look, I'm a father too, you know, I understand that people are watching this game getting worried, and it was brilliant, you know what I mean, because he was the captain of Ireland going, look, I understand this is a game and all that. Like, it was just proper leadership, and if they win today, he's right up there with anything O'Driscoll and O'Connell has ever done, beating all three Southern Hemisphere teams in the one calendar year, you know. That's
something I know that I think Jerry touches on as well in his article. But just moving on to Alan Quinlan here, because he's kind of put it up to Paddy Jackson today. It's an opportunity for him today, but he needs not to feel like he's the understudy, but a rival for Johnny.
Yeah, it's very important for both Paddy Jackson and Ireland that he goes well today, because it's becoming increasingly clear that can't really rely on Johnny Sexton every week of every season to play, because he
doesn't finish games.
He doesn't finish games. The minutes are catching up on him. He's picking up hamstring injuries. He had one hamstring problem coming into it. He's got the
another
other one
hamstring.
now.
Yeah.
So you know, Paddy Jackson is a guy. He's 24. He's the same age that Johnny Sexton was when Johnny Sexton burst on the scene with Leinster at Croke Park. He's been in the spot. He's grown up in front of our eyes. You know, he's one of these guys. You know, he failed in front of us on his first season in 2012.
He was probably rushed into that Edinburgh game, wasn't he?
Yeah, absolutely. And then you know, he's had Ruan Pienaar minding him along, and he's kind of grown out of that shadow a little bit. He was really good in South Africa. Although I think if Johnny was in South Africa, Ireland would have probably won that series. But still, that's part of the learning curve. For at the start of a World Cup cycle, and I think the test of trying to deal with all these disruptions is really good practice for the World Cup. And there's a lot of players Alan Quinlan mentions, like Tyg Furlong, Josh van der Fleer, Gary Ringrose, who are going to be absolutely key in 2019. And Jackson, who'll be 27, you know, Sexton's going to be 34 or 33, 34 in 2019. Jackson will be right at the age where he should be leading this team. And then we've got Joey Carberry coming up underneath him, whose kicking probably isn't of the same standard, but has the ability to run a game.
We were saying that you got Ian Madigan in here today. It was like Ian Madigan has an injury though, so he might have been in. We don't know if he would have been in the mix or not, but. The road was made clear because Paddy Jackson, or because Ian Madigan went to Bordeaux. The road was clear for Paddy Jackson to nail down this spot when inevitably Johnny gets injured.
Yeah. Talk to us about Gav's piece there, Rory, on the rivalry between. If it's not good enough what we're seeing on the pitch, there's a right-on rivalry between the two coaches.
Yeah, it's kind of an unspoken one. Gavin and Derek Foley and Starr have both taken it on as a kind of a challenge. We all would have dealt with Michael Cheika and Joe Schmidt as Leinster coaches, and now we've seen them go on to this next level. We watched them at the World Cup. We've watched them play each other once, and they both take a different approach to it. You know, Michael Cheika kind of just lavishes praise on Joe Schmidt, and you know, who took over his job at Leinster and made Leinster even better than what Cheika had done from a pretty firm base. And then Schmidt just says he doesn't really know him that well. So they may have, because he got appendicitis after the last time they played, so he didn't really go in for the love-in, which was an interesting approach.
I rang Mick Dawson, CEO of Leinster, who was in a unique position of being the man in the room when both were interviewing for the jobs, and they were. This was a big punt by Leinster to give these two men jobs. Neither of them had the big high coach. None of them had done this a head coaching job of Leinster's calibre when they got given the jobs. They're the same in the sense that they're ruthless and they're organisational wise. Cheika gets everyone knows Joe Schmidt as a phenomenal technical coach. Cheika doesn't get the credit that he perhaps deserves for that. Gordon Darcy pointed out that, remember that Leinster-Munster game in Croke Park when Rocky Elsom split through the Munster team? That move in midfield, that was from Cheika's head, So there's little bits and pieces like that. My favourite thing about it was Mick Dawson said, they started in porta cabins in Old Belvedere car park back in 2005. That's where Leinster were. And by the time Cheika left, he'd drawn the plans for their state-of-the-art UCD. Yeah, Cheika was involved with the actual plans for this is where this room should be. Everything literally design-wise. He's a self-made man from the rag trade industry in his own business. So he actually laid out business plans and architectural plans for how Leinster should move into a state-of-the-art facility up in UCD. His legacy is secure, but. Joe probably doesn't like hearing that because Joe came in and he went and double. He did better than he did, but the foundations undoubtedly were built by Cheika at Leinster, and Joe just took them on, and we all know what happened there,
Pat, take us into the online world because we have the hard copies here, but there's plenty going on there as well.
Yeah. There's some good pieces. I was just looking at Gav's piece here in the Times as well, and the 42 have some good coverage as well today. But just ahead of the game, I kind of spoke to David Pocock, so we have a kind of interview with him up on Sports Joe today, and. I was saying, just as the guys probably know as well, talking to some rugby players, you talk about Ireland, the opposition, who's the toughest guy, and they just tick all the boxes. But Pocock has just got so much going on outside of rugby that he's just so engaging when he comes to speak about it. And he's a big advocate over in Australia of kind of gay rights and same-sex marriage and stuff. And I talked to him about that, and Ireland kind of passing the vote last year, and. He kind of livened up and he was so proud of what Ireland did and what a message it kind of sent. And he was kind of saying that Australia, on a societal level, is at the same level. Everybody accepts it at this stage, but he's kind of saying the government has let them down because it doesn't look like there's going to be a sign of that vote ever coming up as well. So spoke to him about that kind of stuff, talking about kind of how to tackle homophobia and what the Australian Rugby Union is doing. And but then, of course, you came back to that debut he made. Well, not the debut, the first time he played over here against Ireland in that kind of drawn game here. And he was just unbelievable in that game. And that's where he'd been playing for a year at that stage. But everybody kind of really said, this guy is a guy to watch now in the future. And he kind of mentioned that I think one of his heroes growing up was Brian O'Driscoll. And he was saying, of course, it was Brian O'Driscoll that popped up at the end to get that try. And it's funny to kind of think about his two favourite players would be George Smith and Brian O'Driscoll as well. So there is that kind of grudging respect where we got done in, but we got done in by Brian O'Driscoll, so it's not the worst thing in the world.
It's great when these guys show because a lad who's reached such a high level in elite sport, they have to have a good bit of character to them and personality.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's great when he shows it, like his documentary. Remember we were talking about
True Grit, yeah.
When he went back to Zimbabwe, where his granddad's farm, and he's a really phenomenal, interesting guy.
Yeah.
And he is. It would have been brilliant to get. Hopefully, we get to see Sean O'Brien going against him to find out who the best seven in the world is. Because I know he's not wearing it on his back, but that's where it's at, and it's those two guys right now. Now that McCaw's retired.
Yeah, it's the winner of the game, isn't it?
I think so. Yeah.
Speaking of the winning of the game, time's up against us. How's this one? I know in your article this morning you've tipped Australia. How do you think it's going to go?
I think it'll be tight. I think it'll be really, really tight. I think the bookies are kind of calling it pretty much a scratch game. I think if Ireland had the perfect preparation, if Ireland hadn't played the All Blacks last week in such a thunderous game, I think Ireland would win. But I've been watching a bit of Australia this week, and I've been impressed with the way they've played on this tour. So I think with the disruption, just undermines Ireland. You know, the Jackson, Gary Ringwald's playing out of position a little bit. I think just don't quite have the accuracy they need to win this game. So I'm going to go with Australia.
There's Ireland fans crying into the croissants watching this morning. Sure,
if I'm tipping them, they're probably okay.
No, as usual, I don't agree with Rory. No, I think, look, we have lost key players. If Jared Payne and Sean O'Brien don't take the pitch, we're not going to win the game. If Jared Payne takes the pitch, which it looks like he's going to, if CJ Stander and Rob Kearney looks like they're going to come through their return to play protocols, I think there's enough there. I think Conor Murray's going to come back to something closer to the Chicago performance as opposed to the last All Black performance. He showed he can run a game from 9 as opposed to us having to be over-reliant on Paddy. Paddy will kick his goals. I think Ireland win this game. If we just stay to the standard that we've set in November, and there's no reason why we can't keep up to that level. You know what I mean? I think we expected this Irish team now that they're going to get to a certain level, and I think that level is good enough to beat this Wallaby team.
One for Australia, one for Ireland. Pat, it's all on you.
The deciding vote, I would say the same thing. I think, if you have someone like of the calibre of Peter O'Mahony to come in and play reserve at this stage, like that shows you that we could be okay in that kind of back row. But yeah, I think I'd be the same as Gavin. If Jared Payne isn't playing, we're in big trouble then, because you've got a massive leader in the backline missing. So hopefully Payne plays. I think he's going to play, and if he does, I'm going to go. No, actually, no, not even if he does. I'll go Ireland anyway. But
It's because you're a patriot.
yeah, I'm feeling the spirit today. I was confident last week as well, but that didn't go too well for me. But I'm going to go for Ireland this week.
Some achievement, the Triple Crown of Southern Hemisphere teams. It'd be great.
Yeah, it'd be fantastic. Let's hope it happens. Gents, thanks a million for now. Don't forget to join us later on from the Aviva fan studio. We're going to be joined here by Jenny Murphy, as ever, and David Wallace. We're also going to have in the studio Mike Ross, and we're going to be joined as well by Ian Madigan pre-kick-off here in the Aviva fan studio. We'll talk to you later on.